Alrighty, I'm Fuzzy Barbarian, welcome back. This is part 10 and the final part of my walkthrough, fast walkthrough that is, of Mortal Shell. We've just beaten Crew 6 the Twiceborn and the fog has descended. We now have to take the gland back to the Observer and fight the final boss. To do that, there's a phantom here. We want to kill the phantom. Well, you don't really have to, you could actually just run past this phantom. The world has changed and we need to use these teleporters to get back. Basically it's a mad rush from teleporter to teleporter in this area. The next teleporter is directly straight ahead, so you just want to run past these enemies. You can kill them if you want, but we're not going to here. So long as you're quick enough, you won't get hit at all. The next one's a little bit trickier. You need to take this ramp up the left. It's not that tricky though. We're just heading to another teleporter. Kill this archer. Watch out for the hammer guy though, we don't want to deal with him. That phantom you'd kill normally, but he went under the ground, and if you keep running you'll avoid them. And there's the next teleporter right next to an enemy who won't get you if you run straight into the teleporter. And now we're done with teleporting. It's time to make a mad dash through the level. Now there are a ton of enemies here. These guys here are easy to get past, but the hardest part is once we get past this hammer guy, there's a whole heap of archers in a line above this ramp. All of these archers are going to fire at you pretty much at once. Well, you hope they do. If they decide to fire independently, you're in trouble. What you want to try and do is run up to them, get as close as possible to them, and then harden. Take as many of their shots as you can, and then run for it. So a couple of them didn't fire at the same time. But if you do it that way, you should take minimal damage. And that's really the hardest part right there. So long as you get through there without dying, you're going to be all good to get through, at least back to the Eternal Narthex. So we run through here, and there's, in the start of the Eternal Narthex level in the last video, I showed you a lift that we needed to activate to create a shortcut. We didn't use that lift because I didn't die and didn't need to, but we'll use it now because it will bypass the rest of the level. So you step on that button to activate it, and this will take us back down to the base where Cester Janessa is. Now there are a bunch of enemies between us and Cester Janessa. You can kill them if you want, or you can make a mad dash through them to Cester Janessa. You'll probably make your mad dash, no problem. I'm going to kill this first phantom just because he decided to get in my way, but if you just run to the right there, Cester Janessa is at the end. Not even going to worry about that phantom that's right in front of me. They'll have seen me, but so long as you get to her and activate her, that'll reset the phantoms before they get to you. Perhaps, and you're good to start making your way back to the Eternal Narthex. So once again, there's things you can explore around here that are only available when the fog has descended. I'm going to ignore all of that. I'm not looking to explore. Like all the previous videos, we're trying to get through and take the most direct path to the boss. This gland that we're holding is actually the gland for the final boss. So once we get back to Fallgrim Tower, there will be no more running through the maps like this anymore. This is the last time we'll have to do it. Now this area has changed. We can't use the teleporter that we used to get here to go back, but we just have to run through the level. There's only one way to go. There's no other way. Just keep going through as far as you can until at the very end you'll find a teleporter that will take us back to the start. This area often gets a little bit confusing, but we'll get there eventually. Just dodge all these enemies. Kill them if you want to. Don't if you don't want to. This teleporter will teleport us back to the teleport on the right hand side near Cester Janessa. All we've got to do here is run around this hammer dude on the left. Just dodge him or harden to avoid getting hit. There's a couple more enemies, but again, don't worry about them. They're all irrelevant. Just run straight through and reset your spawn point at Cester Janessa. And just remember, if you haven't already, you can use the book just there to fight Haddon and get the hammer and chisel weapon. You can fast travel back here too if you want to do that later on. So now we'll be running back down the stairs and back through to Fallgrim. So just remember, underneath these stairs or around to the right is that secret merchant. If you want to visit the secret merchant for any reason, you could do that right now. But we're just going to run straight back to Fallgrim Tower. Beforehand though, we'll grab this statue, which is now activated. And that gives us Cester's Binding. Cester's Binding is an item that can switch your weapon to the hammer and chisel. So if you'd picked up the hammer and chisel at the Eternal Narthex by fighting Haddon from that book I pointed out a minute ago, and you're not carrying the hammer and chisel now, let's say we're carrying the hallowed sword, which we are, if we use Cester's Binding, it would switch us straight to the hammer and chisel. So here's these Noctur Surfers again. I really hate these guys. Completely sick of them by the end of the game. There's just so many of them to deal with. And again, just casually walk through. If you know where they are, by all means you can run, but I haven't committed to memory where they drop out of the sky onto your head. So there's one right there. Had I ran through there, he would almost definitely have landed on my head. They're actually, I'm pretty sure they're coded to drop perfectly on you if you're running past. As in, the warning sound that they make to the time they drop is exactly identical to the speed at which you would run from the point of the warning sound to when it would land on you. It's a bit of a troll move by the devs because it's a way of stopping you from being able to run through the levels when the fog is out, which slows down your game time really, which I'm sure was the whole point. But anyway, I'm killing this guy pretty much needlessly. So we'll just move on. We're not far away from home, but unfortunately I'm going to walk slowly. If you want to run, you can heal up, I guess, if one lands on you. You can get your bearings along the way when you see this campsite that's coming up ahead. If you'd followed me to this point, this campsite is in front of a tunnel that basically leads us back home. So as soon as you see this campsite, you know you're almost home. Just tread carefully because there's a few of them around. Take them out one at a time. Noctur Surfers. Not hard, just annoying. So yeah, if you look down here, you'll see there's some traps on the ground to avoid and a tunnel. We're heading back to do the final boss right now, and when the final boss is done, you can have a choice as to whether you proceed to NG+, or whether you want to explore the map further and stay in your current game. If you want to explore the map further right now and pick up more items, find stuff that we haven't looked at in this run because we've been doing a more direct run, then now's probably the time to do it. Otherwise, kill the final boss and come back and do it later. Remember, you can always start the fog up again, even if there's no more bosses to kill, just by accessing the wraith-looking dude standing in the Fallgrim Tower. We'll kill this dude. No need to, because it just ran in there, but we'll ignore that frog. Okay, so we'll go and see Cester Janessa just to create our new respawn point. Not that it really matters now that we have the mask, because once we hand in the gland, it's the final boss anyway. That's the dude right there that I was saying before is the wraith-looking dude, the dude in the cloak. He's the dude you speak to later on if you just want to start the fog on its own without having to kill a boss to do so. The other thing I haven't done is you can see there's 2 slots there for the Solemn Offering. I haven't upgraded those, nor have I done the Ballistazooka. And I did say earlier that I would show you how to get the Ballistazooka, so I will do that now. What you need to do is you need to go to the merchant, and you can go to the merchant by going right here, or instead of going right there, if you're down below, I showed this earlier but I'll show it again, it doesn't hurt. You can just go out this door and run around to the left. They're both the same way. There's the door there. They're both exactly the same way, but just to show you. It's a little late in the game probably to show that. I kind of showed it earlier, but there you go. So yeah, you go up to the merchant and he will sell you the tools you need to repair the Ballistazooka. I think he charges 8,000 tar. We have 5. I have 5,000. but I think I have enough bags of tar to make it up. This is where you might want to buy some more quenching acid too if you picked up any other weapons that you want to upgrade, but we want the tools, that's what we're focused on. I'll just access some bags of tar. We should have more than enough to be able to buy it now. Yeah, there we go, with plenty to spare. So we buy the tools and then we head back to the workbench, and we use the tools to repair the Ballistazooka, and then it will magically appear on our back. You can also buy from the merchant bolts, that's ammo to use with it, but we've already picked up plenty of ammo. It's not like you're going to use this thing like a gun in any other game. It's very slow to use, it's very slow to reload, but it's very powerful, so you can down a boss with it with a single shot, just like using a weapon ability. Alright, so we'll make our way back to the workbench. So just go across to tools and upgrade them, and then the Ballistazooka will magically appear on your back. A pop-up screen will happen which tells you how to use the Ballistazooka. You have to press down on your D-pad to equip it, so that pulls it out ready for aiming, and then you press X to fire it. At least that's the Xbox controllers. I don't know about PC controllers, but... So you press down on the D-pad, that pulls it out and aims it. You press X to fire it when you're ready. You press down on the D-pad again to put it away, and you press down on the D-pad again to reload it, and reloading it takes a very long time, so don't do it if you're anywhere near an enemy that can hurt you. The other thing you can do is turn around and go back to that workbench and upgrade or install your solemn offerings. I've got 2 in my inventory and I haven't installed them, but I already showed you how to install them when we grabbed the first one, so I'm not going to bother doing that right now. Instead, we're going to go in and we're going to hand the gland to the observer and start the final fight. Now, normally the final fight's pretty challenging and can go for quite a long time, even when you're leveled up. The boss has a few phases, and halfway through the fight, when his health is a bit lower, he'll spawn a whirlpool in the middle of the map, and a bunch of minions will fall into that whirlpool and heal him if you don't kill them in time, and it's hard to kill them in time because you can fall into the whirlpool as well. So I'm going to show you a way to basically prevent all that happening by stun locking the boss. The first thing you want to do is put Superior Moonshine on your quick items list. Superior Moonshine gives you resolve. Put a Boiled Frog on your quick items list. Boiled Frog gives you extra stamina regen, and put a Golden Bell on your quick items. We're only going to use the Boiled Frog and Golden Bell in order to be able to do our stun locking strategy, but the Superior Moonshine is there in case something goes wrong and we can get all of our resolve back. But we probably won't use the Moonshine if everything goes right. Basically what we're going to do is stun lock him to death. So if you don't have those items, you're not going to be able to do what I'm about to show you. I recommend going and getting those items if you don't, but if you've been following along with this guide, you should have them too. If not, I have another video that I'll put a link to in the description where I fight him through all of his phases over a period of about 15 minutes. And all that's without a fully leveled up character and without using those items. So you can watch that video to get ideas on how to handle all of his different phases. But for this one, we're going to end his day before he can do a single thing. And how we're going to do that is, once the fight starts, we'll take our Boiled Frog to get our stamina regen, and we'll use the Golden Bell to get our resolve. And then after that, we'll hit him with a weapon ability, and while he's down, we'll hit him with 2 light attacks, then a heavy attack. Then at the exact end of the heavy attack, we'll do a jumping heavy attack, and then immediately at the end of that, we'll do another weapon ability, and we'll continue that whole loop over and over and over and over and over until he's dead. And the way to make it work is just to chain that series of attacks without a break. So what you do, weapon ability, 2 light attacks, a heavy attack, a jumping heavy attack, weapon ability, 2 light attacks, a heavy attack, a jumping heavy attack, and so on and so on and so on. Now when the fight first starts though, he'll kind of jump back and away from you. You don't want to pop your Boiled Frog or use your Golden Bell just yet, because he'll come in and he'll hit you while you're doing it. So what you want to do is you can just wait for him to do his initial attack, dodge through it or dodge away from it, move away from him, and then you can use your Boiled Frog and Golden Bell, and then we can start. I'm not going to use the Ballistazooka in this, though I might just briefly show you how you would, or when you would use it if you were using it. I do use it in the other video that I'm going to put a link in the description, so you can see me use it in that video, but I'm not going to use it in this one. We're just going to stun lock him to death. If you use the Ballistazooka in this, you're in trouble. So okay, so he jumps back. Now get ready, he'll rush forward, dodge through him, and now you can move back and you can use your boiled frog. There's where you could use the Ballistazooka to shoot him, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it away. Should really get further back too. Now I've popped to the golden bell, and now we wait for him to come in again. He comes in, we dodge. So we hit him with a weapon ability. Now a light attack, a heavy attack, a jumping heavy attack, and a weapon ability. And over. Light attack, heavy, jumping, heavy, weapon ability. You can do the jumping heavy immediately at the end of doing that heavy attack. It's kind of like cancels out the end of that heavy attack animation. Just make sure when you do finish your weapon ability attack you don't move in, because when his head comes down and hits the ground like that, it will actually damage you, and you don't want to take that damage because it will also stun you and ruin your whole motion, your whole chain, and he'll get away. So you do the weapon ability, and what I recommend is where the game puts you after doing it is in the perfect position not to be hit by his head. So when it puts you in that position, don't move forward, just spam your light attack button until it does 2 attacks. Do the heavy, as soon as the heavy attack finishes, do the jumping move, and so on. Remember, the jumping move is by pressing both buttons on a Xbox controller, that's B and Y, so your dodge button and your heavy button. So again, weapon ability, spam your light attack until you do 2, heavy attack, jumping heavy attack, weapon ability, and that's it. He doesn't get to do any of his annoying phases. You don't have to fight any of the annoying minions that he spawns in throughout the fight, and you end it very quickly. I'm calling that a stun locking system of beating him, but you might call it a cheese. So if you don't want to cheese him in that way, by all means check out the link that I'll put in the description for my longer fight against him, and you can try to fight him properly, which in my opinion is just a really annoying and frustrating fight to do, and it's much more fun doing it this way, but it's entirely up to you. So this is where you get the choice whether you want to proceed to NG+, or whether you want to not do that and go back to Fallgrim and explore around. Entirely up to you. I'm going to choose to proceed and start a new game plus, which will then show us the ending of the game and bring up the ending credits. As you can see, for the whole walkthrough, we're probably up to about the 4-hour mark with all of my stopping and staring at screens and explaining things. If you were just doing this method without stopping and explaining, you're looking probably 3 to 3.5 hours. Again, though, I used very little items in this walkthrough and also didn't parry at all. If you learn parrying, and there's a link to how to do that in the description of all of these parts, then you can definitely speed through this game using this method much faster. I would say with parrying and using items, you probably do it in about 2.5 hours. I mean, it's not a speedrun strategy, but if you're not a speedrunner and just want to have the best, most efficient path to completing the game, this is pretty much it. And there we go, there are the credits. We've done the whole game. I don't even think I was knocked out of my shell for that, so that went pretty well. If you were knocked out of your shell, I'm sorry, because I didn't get to show that mechanic at all, but I'm sure if you were, and you were no doubt, then you learnt that all by yourself. I didn't show what all the items do, though I did describe what they do every time I picked one up. Hopefully you learnt what all the items do yourself just by experimentation, but if you kept them in your inventory because you weren't sure what they did and you didn't waste them, which is a good idea, you can also look up online. I think Fextra Life has a complete list of what all the items do. It's worth looking at that before you use them so you don't waste them and you use them in the right moment. But either way, we're able to complete the whole game with using minimal items and without using parrying, so that's all pretty good, and I'm sure this guide will have helped you out. Now that we're back at the menu, I'm just interested to see how long we took. Okay, so that was pretty much bang on 4 hours. So that's a pretty good, easy beginner method to beating the game in a very short period of time. And like I said, that would be 2.5 to 3 hours if you were parrying and using some buffs from items. Anyway, I'm Fuzzy Barbarian. This has been a fast, efficient walkthrough of Mortal Shell. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope it helped you out, and I'll see you next time.